Yay, nay? I mean, that seems a bit better. Yay! I'm probably getting a ping on... Oh, maybe not. Oh well. It's working, which is all that matters. Also, the audio out's not been working. Oh well. It's working now, which is all that matters. Okay, let's start again. Boom, boom, boom. Right. We're all good. Can you see? Can you see there's a really obvious difference between them? Of course there is. There's 2 people in the first and no people in the second. Well, yeah, you can see that straight away. But now? Try and look at the pictures in 3 dimensions. Alright, I'll give it a go. You have to cross your eyes and then try to make the 2 pictures overlap exactly. Oh man, I'm freaking out. I couldn't see it, but... There's the doll, the skull, the scales, the picture of the dog, they're pretty clear. Nothing else is out of the ordinary. Let's see if by crossing my eyes I can make the quill pens from each picture overlap. Wait. Well, did you manage to see it properly, Runo? Not really. I'm just not very good at this. That's the trouble. Oh, don't worry. I have just the thing. I happen to bring it with me. A portable stereoscope. I know I mentioned this yesterday, but if you had that contraption with you from the outset, you could have seen... You could have saved me staring at Mr. Winterbank and Gina like I hate them all the time. And if you remember, I said in reply that it's much more satisfying to be able to see the effect with your own eyes. Anyway, why don't we try using this helpful little aid now? Here goes. Wait, look at that. What's going on with these two pictures? I don't quite get it. Some of the things in the calendar just sort of jump out at you. Yeah, Van Zykes wasn't actually going to like go bug-eyed, was it? Yes, yes, yes. That's it, you see. That's the other amazing power of stereoscopes. Other amazing power?
Is someone going to explain this black magic? Why the deuce do some of the things on the counter seem to jump out at you like that?
I think you'll find that if you consider the basic principle of the stereoscope, you answer your own question. Basic principles of the stereoscope. As I said before, if you try to look at two identical pictures using a stereoscope, it won't work at all. It's the slight shift in positions of certain objects that let you see the picture in 3 dimensions. In other words, even though at first glance it seems the objects on the counter haven't moved at all between the two pictures, this shows that actually there must have been a slight shift in their position. Yes, there must have been.
Now, hold fire there, sir. Got a reasonable grasp on this whole cross-eyed business now, I'd say. But why the devil does this shift between the two prints exist in the first place? Well, what's the answer, fellow? Come on, you're the cross-eyed master.
What? Me? I haven't the first idea. You know, Bruno, it's quite simple. It is. Just think it through step by step. The first photograph was taken at 1 AM. Then, 30 minutes later, the second photograph was taken. But the position of some of the items on the counter appear to have shifted slightly in the interim. So that means that sometime in the half-hour interval, someone must have tampered with things on the counter.
Zookers!
No information. Stop. Not mentioned in the testimony so far. Stop. Yes. We've had to go around in circles a little bit here, it seems. But I'm starting to see what I should be aiming at in the summation examination now. Ladies and gentlemen, the question is now clear. We know the items on the countertop were moved, but by whom?
Are you? Why are you suggesting that you might know?
Of course. I can tell you right now who's responsible for almost all the imperfectual shift in the items on this counter. Some of these two in it. It was the witnesses currently in the stand, the Skulkin brothers.
Wait. This is not agree with what brothers say in testimony before. They said they did not even have time to pull dukes from Lucille Lockett. My phrasebook says dukes is meaning hands, and Lucille Lockett is meaning pocket. But is this another lie? Is this what you are saying?
Yes, I'm afraid so.
Now hold on a minute. You can't be sure of that.
I quite agree. The accused is a common pickpurse after all. It is perfectly possible that she went through all the things on the desk to see what she might steal. I think that's unlikely.
And why exactly?
As you can see from this photographic print, the defendant was pointing a gun at the victim. It would seem, as my learned friend indicated, that she was coercing Mr. Winterbank to open the storeroom door. In other words, Mr. Stray's interest lay within the storeroom and not the main shop, giving her no reason to touch anything on the counter. All of which points to one thing. The Skulkin brothers have omitted key facts in their testimony. But the accused is a pickpurse, common gutter trash. Why look any further than for the wrongdoer here? Because the Skulkin brothers are thieves, madam. No better, in fact, worse than a pickpurse. I believe that these brothers were looking for something on the victim's counter that night. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if you would condemn the defendant on the grounds that she is pickpocket, would it not be at least right and proper to thoroughly scrutinize testimony given against her by these two thieves?
Well said. I, for one, would like to hear more from that shady pair.
What on earth? And you'll see now. I think you'll find stereoscopes aren't playthings. You've seen their extraordinary potential firsthand. Wholeheartedly agree. Stop. Must purchase after trial. Stop. Will return home via Regent Street. Stop.
Well, it would seem this trial has yet to run its course. The ladies and gentlemen of the jury have declared their inclinations via the mighty scales of justice. I hereby call this examination to conclusion with the ballots altered in the defendant's favor. 2 lean guilty, 4 lean not guilty. Accordingly, the jury is without consensus, and I order this trial to continue.
Yay! Well done. Oh, by the way. What? You should hold on to this, Runo. You never know when you might just come in useful. Twice in one trial would be unusual, surely. But alright. That 100% means that we're going to be using it again.
Lord Van Zykes, you will instruct the witnesses that the court demands additional testimony from them. I'm sure it won't spoil the banquet to do so, my lord.
Banquet or bouquet? I don't know which one that was. I've won myself another chance to probe that pair about the activities that night at least. And I won't stop probing them until I've proven that Gina is innocent. Alright, we won't get into it. let's keep going. How's it looking? Are we stable? Looks okay. I'm getting a decent bit rate. Yeah, it's fine by me.
Order, please. Let us resume proceedings. Witnesses, you will now retake the stand.
I think so. I think so too. It's eased itself out a bit. Hopefully.
I presume you've heard the defense counsel's summation examination.
Yeah, Governor. I did, Gov. I did. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin.
God blimey.
This is going to be hard work. Earlier in this trial, you gave the following testimony about your actions after you entered Winterbanks. I don't want to reread it. Well, it was better than Masu's, wasn't it? It was, Nosh, it was. I didn't even have time to pull my dunks out my lazy Lucas. However, that was a lie. You brothers. On the night in question, you rifled through the items on the victim's counter. We never done not know the sort. How'd you figure that out?
You will now give a formal testimony once again. You will tell the court precisely what happened on the night in question, and this time, you tell the truth. Each lie that passes your lips serves to increase the severity of your punishment. And that, gentlemen, may deal a crushing blow to your chances of ever seeing the light of day again. I thought worth pondering, perhaps. Say no more, Gov. We're blab, we'll squeal, we'll beach.
Illegal entry, the whole truth. We went through front door, bruv. Megalox, thank you for following. I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. Alright. We did know a few things over, but we weren't rifling for nothing. It was when it was we heard gunshots, see? Made us both jump. And all that stuff went flying. Luma didn't give me a fright. We thought we was thinking the shooter came out the door to get us next. We struck everything back exactly where we found it, escaping straight into... What on earth is this language? We struck everything back where we found it, and scarpered straight into... I'm in the black. What? We couldn't have shot Prawn Broker, see? We never even had a chance, did we? What is this language?
So you admit that...
I have no coffee. Sorry, I'm losing my marbles a bit.
So you admit to the defense's accusation. You did indeed ransack Mr. Winterbank's countertop on the night in question.
It's super British. It's more British than I am. Not ransack, Governor, no. That's right, Nosh. That's right. It's more, we tied it up, yeah. Sorry.
By their own admission, these brothers entered the pawnbrokery under dubious circumstances. However, they panicked and fled on hearing the gunshot, having first made good their mess.
The way you say it, we hardly sound like roughs at all. We don't, Nash. We don't. Can't make them sound a bit more cutthroat. Can't you make it sound a bit more cutthroat? It can't just be a coincidence these men showed up at Winterbank's that night. There's more to their testimony than meets the eye. I'm sure of it. Let's have a think about it. We knocked a few things over, we went rifling for nothing. Yes. Whereupon you fired a shot from your own gun at Mr. Herlock Sholmes.
It's a bit hasty there.
We was, Nosh, we was. Truth be told, I was already sitting like a leaf when you turned up. If you were shaking like a leaf, don't put a loaded gun in your hand. Oh, good advice, miss, good advice.
Truth be told, me mind went totally blank.
Before your mind goes totally blank, make sure you don't have a loaded gun in your hand. Mental note made, miss. After that, we legged it down the street, but apparently we looked dodgy to the coppers or something. So they clapped the derbies on us. We were winking.
And after you'd been handcuffed, the police found this revolver in your possession, correct?
Well, yeah. But Luton, that proves it, doesn't it, eh? We couldn't have shot that pawnbroker, see? We never even had a chance, did we? It kind of depends how long they've been there for. You say they're not rifling for anything. If that's the case, why didn't you testify to that effect in the first place?
Well,
we ain't exactly squeaky clean, are we? We ain't, Nosh, we ain't. If we admitted something like that, people would think we was up to no good.
Well said, Ringo, me old Chinga.
Chinga? Me old Chinna? We only land ourselves in even more trouble. And in fact now, as a result of lying in your previous testimony, that's exactly what you've done. Landed yourselves in even more trouble. That's rotten luck. Says the rotten apple eater.
Witnesses, explain your actions to the court. Why did you ransack the victim's counter?
We never ransacked nothing. Right, Nash, right. More like we tidied up the place. Sorry. straight into him in the black. Yes, whereupon you fired a shot from your own gun at Mr. Sholmes. Oh, I've already read this. And why should we believe that? What? Because it's true, isn't it? That place was totally empty when we went in.
At that time, the victim was already in the storeroom, having been forced to open the door by the accused who had a gun to his head. In other words, on the night in question, these two witnesses never even laid eyes on the proprietor of the pawnbrokery, Mr. Winterback. Correct.
You got it, mister. Down to a T. So, the Skulking brothers never actually encountered Mr. Winterbank. Is that really true, I wonder? That's the full extent of their testimony? What is it, Runo? You look very fierce. I could pour you some herbal tea if you're tired. Oh, thank you, but I'm fine. Being such a logical thinker, you'll probably laugh, but I feel as though these brothers are still hiding something. Something important. It's nothing more than a feeling, though. I'm not proof to support it. Well, feelings can be very logical at times. Sorry? People's expressions, their movement in their eyes, the words they choose. You can take all that in, and your brain will quietly analyze it to come up with a feeling like you described. You've concluded that there's something suspicious about your testimony without knowing why. That's all. I think you should trust your instinct. Iris. Thank you. Sometimes, I think if she's 10 years old, I must be 5. We need to look at what we've got. Let's go back. Let's go back. Right. Let's see this one. So, you didn't try to open the storeroom door then?
Not on your life.
It went definitely quiet in there, it did. Put the wind right up me. Anyway, the door was locked, weren't it? No way that was open. Yes, of course. It was locked from the inside, or so we've been led to believe. It was, Gov, it was. From the inside. Right. So we'd had no way of knowing what was going on in there, did we? Unless there was some other way to get a view from the inside of the storeroom. Like, through a keyhole or a spy hole, perhaps. Don't ring no bells, don't light no lights. We had to cut and run before we noticed anything like that. We're still cutting our teeth in this game, see? But one day, we'll really cut the mustard. Please, cut it out.
But as we know, behind that door was the victim's lifeless body with the accused not 2 feet away.
Yes, unfortunately. Gina was in there unconscious with a gun in her hand.
To confirm, would it be correct to say that neither of you set foot inside the storeroom?
That's right, Gov. That's right.
Can't have. Not even if we wanted to.
Alright, so we've pressed everything. So what you're saying is that the sound of the gunshot shocked you so much that you knocked all the things off the counter?
Well, it shocked one of us that much, yeah. This bag of nerds decided to keep his shirt on.
No, it was loud, alright. Blimey. Me dead granny would have walked up with that bag.
Big Brubs here screamed like a blooming baby and fell off the counter. He knocked over a load of books, a candlestick and skull and whatnot.
That got tangled in some marionette.
Wait, no,
What? Yeah. Ah. You've really mastered working quietly then. What a racket. Me granny would have been scared back in her grave like a clatter like that. So, in short, the gunshot took you by surprise.
and then some.
I mean, it was quiet as a mouse, and then all of a sudden, BAM!
Excuse me.
Inspector Gregson, do you have something to add?
Like I keep saying, I don't appreciate being lumped in with these scoundrels.
No, something to add about their testimony. You seemed to react just now at what Mr. Skulkin had said. Did it make you think of something?
It's probably nothing, of course. I wouldn't have even bothered to mention it, only, well, fact is, cases don't get solved if you ignore the little details.
How about you just tell us what's on your mind?
As you know, we brought these fellas into the yard for questioning last night, and the statement they gave then told a slightly different story to what they're saying now.
Did it?
You claimed you heard the victim shout something out before the gunshot.
Might have, Gav. Might have. Does ring a bell, now you mention it.
Granted, it's only a minor detail, but still. Can't help feeling like perhaps you've been a bit sloppy with your testimony here, fellas. If I discover that any witness's testimony has been any more sloppy than it has hitherto proven to be, I shall be forced to bring the very harshest punishment to bear against them.
Easy, easy. You got it right this time. That's right, yeah. It's all coming back to me now, you know, right in the old noggin. It's all coming back. Just needed a bit of a kickstart, that's all.
Then speak. Supplement your testimony with whatever details you have miraculously returned to your questionable minds, sirs.
Hee. Or a jogger. Just before the gunshot, we heard a voice yelling out, "Give me that gun." And that doesn't make any sense. Where's that autopsy? Entered bullet from the back. Right. There you go.
Objection.
Whoa, 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 whoa. No, 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 no. I am right. Here's the thing, my mind's jumped ahead now, and it's like, oh yeah, I actually know. And then I'm not picking the right piece of evidence.
Objection.
What are you... I'm gonna press it. I know what I'm trying to get at, but I don't want to waste all my potential lives at a
Hold it.
So in fact you heard the voice and the gunshot almost simultaneously. We did, Gov, we did. Although, I suppose if you're being honest, we heard kind of a wavering voice before that. Before the yell and all. If you don't want to get shot, give me that gun! Bam! Kind of thing. A career in acting. Tragically missed. And where were the voices coming from? Could you tell me? Of course we could. From the other side of that door behind the counter was. From the storeroom, where the victim was found dead.
And the voice you heard, it was that of the victim, Mr. Winterbank.
On me granny's life, of course it was. On his granny's life, of course it was. So, that would mean that both of you knew Mr. Winterbank and the sound of his voice. So that would mean what? What, Nash? What? Any ideas?
Yes, counsel, indeed it would.
No. We didn't even know the geezer. How am I supposed to know it when that bloke in the fancy club is giving his evil eye?
If you value your lives, you will ensure your testimony is accurate and true.
On me granny's life it is.
On his granny's life, it must be.
It's a good job his granny's dead.
To summarize then, immediately after hearing the voice of the victim, you then heard the gunshot, causing you to stumble and upset the items on the counter, scattering them all over the shop floor.
You make it sound like we're clumsy.
Don't forget, we tidied up that good little boys. Anyway, the way I see it, the bloke who owned the place was holding the gun, so he should have just fired instead of yelling at the girl.
Do I risk this again?
Objection.
It's a good job I did. You're saying that on the night in question, the victim, Mr. Winterbank, was wielding a gun. Is that correct? That's it, Gav. You got the picture. He has, Nosh, he has. No question. And yet the photographic evidence at the time of the incident clearly shows that Mr. Winterbank was not in possession of the firearm in any description.
Objection.
You surprise me. Does the defense really intend to highlight evidence that compromises the position of the accused even more?
Ah,
Furthermore, the defense has failed to establish that the photographic print presented was taken at a suitably short time prior to the victim's death. Your chronology is severely lacking, counsel. Yeah, that's right.
too right, Nash, too right. The old geezer could never have been able to turn the tables on that girl.
Hardly likely.
Hardly likely.
No, I'm afraid this won't stand as conclusive evidence. Continue with the cross-examination, counsel, and heed my earlier warning, witnesses.
A skulkin's never skulking. Yeah, whatever.
Hold it.
Let's press it then. You're saying that Mr. Winterbank had a gun in his hands. Oh yeah, bet that was a sight, eh? Them two waving them guns at each other. Must have been pretty heated. I mean, just before shouting out, we heard the geezer say, if you don't want to get shot. Didn't really sound like he meant it, mind. More of an empty threat, you could say.
Mr. Winterbank was known to keep a revolver on his shop counter at all times. People say that to protect the articles in his keeping, he'd readily put a bullet in someone's head if required. That someone being himself, of course. Good grief, extraordinary devotion indeed, if alarmingly misguided.
Well, he certainly sounded like he was ready to pull trigger that other night. Only person he was gonna shoot beat him to it. Cooked his goose proper. Bet he wished he'd squeezed the trigger instead of waiting time shot and give me that gun. And it was directly after those words you heard the gunshot. It was more or less the same time, Gav. Kind of that thing. Yes, a career in acting. Very tragically missed. Then we heard the sound of someone hitting the deck. Before everything went dead quiet. After that, we done a slapdash job tidying the place up. There's got to be more evidence, and there's got to be something else I can present.
Objection.
To me, that's correct.
Objection.
So, you're saying that on the night in question, the victim, Mr. Winterbank, was wielding a gun. Is that correct? That's it, Gov. You got the picture. She has, no question. A very rude judge. I mean, the judge is just doing his job. And to be quite frank, he's the least of our problems. And yet, photographic evidence obtained immediately after the incident clearly shows that Mr. Winterbank was not holding a firearm of any description. You what? Go on, Bennett, I ain't right.
Objection!
There can be no question that the victim's revolver was used in the incident. I would remind the court that Mr. Winterbank's gun was found at the scene. Not only was it identified as the murder weapon, but it was found in the accused's hands.
Yeah, that Multula used the victim's own gun to finish him off.
Hold it!
Stay exactly where you are, right there. If the crime had taken place as you've so colourfully described in your testimony, it would give rise to an undeniable and significant inconsistency in the final moments you've just acted out.
Goodness! Are you sure, counsel? You intrigue me, my learned friend. But let's see some evidence to support your claim. Where is the proof that demonstrates the inconsistency in the witness's portrayal of the victim's final moments?
Take that!
According to their testimony, the witnesses claim to have heard a shout of, "Give me that gun," followed by a gunshot.
Indeed. With the two events happening almost simultaneously, or so we've been led to believe.
Yes, that's right. Now, if that testimony is true, it would mean that at the moment of death, the victim and his attacker would have been facing each other. However, in the autopsy report, it clearly states that the victim died instantly after being shot from behind. So, as I stated before, there is an undeniable inconsistency in your testimony, Mr. and Mr. Skulkin. But it's the God's honest truth. It is, no, it is. When he was shot that night, the shopkeeper had a gun in his hand. He saw it with his own bleeding eyes. Did I hear you right just now? You actually saw Mr. Winterbank holding a gun? Somewhat like that might have slipped out. Ladies and gentlemen, you have all just heard by admission by these two witnesses that on the night in question they actually saw, with their own eyes, the victim wielding a gun. Which can only mean that, despite their testimony to the contrary, the Skulkin brothers must have encountered the victim in person. Hey, big brain.
Order! 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 Witnesses, explain yourselves at once.
No worries, Alera. Well, the thing is, we weren't supposed to,
It would seem that my previous warning fell on deaf ears. I made it quite clear that false witnesses would be the death of you. Am I to understand that you replaced the untruths of your original testimony with renewed lies?
Ever so sorry, Governor. Oh, skipped over it. Truth is, see, we, cut it out, Nosh, cut it out. With blood now, you know what it'd do to us. He. Who are they talking about?
Let me make your position here perfectly clear. You will talk. There is no other option available to you.
Bruv, come on. The game's up. But we'll have his guts for garters. In case it hasn't quite sunk in yet, no matter how hard you try to hide it, the truth will come out.
On the night in question, it's now apparent that you brothers met face to face with the victim. I demand that you testify again to explain the precise circumstances under which this meeting took place.
Well, do we have to?
On pain of death. I suggest you make yourselves fully aware that this is your very last chance to tell the truth.
Alright, so we just got inside the gaff and I saw a relief when we saw the geezers. When the geezer showed his mug. Give me that gun, he bellowed. Then he flew at us like it was possessed. I thought we had it. For an old geezer, that bloke was strong as an ox. He tapped me over the counter. I pulled my gun on him, and then he legged it through the door to the back room. We knew I had nothing to do with killing him. That's all what happened, I swear.
So, you're now telling us that moments before the victim was killed in the storeroom, you in fact encountered him in the main part of the shop.
Well, yeah. Sorry.
Well, we find ourselves at an interesting juncture. This changes matters considerably.
But be honest, Governor, this time, Nash, we got nothing more to hide.
Very well. Counsel for the defense, you may proceed with your cross-examination.
Yes, my lord. This is it. The moment I've been waiting for. Encounter with the victim. That bloke was strong as an ox. Okay.
Hold it!
You mentioned that Mr. Winterbank shouted those words in your previous testimony too. However, you claim that you heard him yelling them on the other side of the storeroom door. Oh, did we? But the truth is, he was shouting those words at you, wasn't it? Oh, well, yeah.
Was the victim Mr. Winterbank wielding a gun at the time?
Was he ever? Blimey lummy him. A great borley had. Put it straight for me frontispiece. Whatever that word is. So what you're saying is, you definitely saw Mr. Winterbank with the gun that night at that time. Is that right? It is, Gov, it is. It's spot on. Then all of a sudden, it came out as he did. It was bedlam. I didn't know it was going through. You were clearly all going for each other. Like Nosh said. We thought we'd had it. I mean...
Hold it!
Were you intending to shoot Mr. Winterbank? No. Never. I was just, you know, looking out for me bruv, weren't I? He was being flattened, don't forget. By a man whose shop was being burgled. Yes. By you.
And then the man fled into the storeroom where you pointed your gun at him. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. He shoved me away and then run off through that door and shut himself in. There's something about that last remark. Something that doesn't quite ring true. I wonder why Mr. Winterbank ran away into the storeroom. What? Well, according to what everyone's been saying, Ginny was in there waiting for him. With a gun. Ah. Yeah, that's right. Gina allegedly used Mr. Winterbank's gun to threaten him in and force him to open the storeroom door. In which case, how did the gun end up in Mr. Winterbank's hands again? I have no idea. But it's strange, isn't it? This little inconsistency should be significant. I should make mental note of it. Look, the point is, me and me brother here. That's right, nice, that's right. Me and me brother here.
Hold it!
You say you had nothing to do with it? Nothing at all. Nothing, Gav, nothing. The old geezer went and shut himself in the back room, didn't he? Locked it was, from the inside. We know it was, because we tried to open it. But it's a decent door, that one. Good and strong. Won't budge an inch.
So in the end, the situation remains unchanged. Inside the storeroom, with the pawnbroker, there was only one other person. The sole person who could have possibly shot the victim, the accused, Miss Gina Lestrade. It would appear so. What say you to that, counsel?
I don't know. Was there anyone else apart from Gina who could have possibly shot Mr. Winterbank? He's right. Gina's the only one in there. I accidentally pressed that, by the way. There was no one else in that storeroom. With an attitude like that, Runo, it really will all be over. Now a 10-year-old is reading my expressions on my face. Well, you don't just have that many wide-eyed, sweating, smug, happy. That's about it. Surely there's more than that, isn't there? Anyway, I think you might want to consider some other possibilities here. Or rather, I think you have to. Otherwise we won't get anywhere. Or rather, you won't get anywhere. here for moral support, remember? And at times like this, I really appreciate it the most. So, that's all these brothers are willing to reveal at this time. They're still hiding something, don't you think? Yeah, I'm sure of it. And not just the minor detail either. It was almost certainly because of that poor Mr. Winterbank as well. You can't let them get away with it, Bruno. I know, but I get the feeling that there's even less evidence at my disposal this time. To prove that they did it. We've come so far. Now it's time to finish them off. Well, I'll do my best. Let me just run that again.
Hold it!
That could have been Mr. and Mr. Skulkin. What? What's that look for? From the moment you admitted that you encountered the victim face to face that night, the course of this trial has changed completely. It did?
What is your point, my learned friend?
The question we must answer is, who could have shot Mr. Winterbank? And is it the belief of the defense that the defendant is not the only possible answer at all? What?
You have my attention. In that case, let us return to this plan of the premises. The victim was killed in the storeroom, which was locked from the inside. Those are facts, so pray, what other possible answers to the question of who shot the man could there be? Counsel! You must now provide answers to the court in respect of 2 conundrums.
2, my lord? Twice as many chances to be right, maybe.
Indeed, namely, from what location did the culprit shoot the victim? And furthermore, where was the victim at the time?
Understood, my lord. Are you alright, Bruno? I'm not entirely sure, but there's one thing I am sure about. If I can prove that there's a credible new alternative to what happened, it would change Gina's prospects hugely.
So now, time for some clarity. Show the court on this plan the answers to the questions proposed by his lordship. If you believe someone else could have killed the victim, indicate from where that person could have fired the gun.
They'd have to be outside.
Take that!
The defense believes that the culprit could have shot the victim from this location here, as he was running through the door.
And in answer to the second question, assuming the culprit fired from the location indicated, where was the victim at this time?
Take that!
The culprit shot the victim from outside the storeroom.
Continue.
Mr. Winterbank died instantly from the bullet wound in his back. Looking at the stain of blood on the storeroom floor, it doesn't appear that the body was moved after death, which tells us that he was almost certainly shot while he was in the storeroom. However, the crucial point is, where was the shooter when this fatal bullet was fired?
So you are adamant that the shot was fired from outside the storeroom?
Well, according to the Skulkin brothers' earlier testimony, I pulled my gun on him, and then I legged it through that door. He legged it into that back room. If Mr. Winterbank ran through the door, we have to assume that the door was open at the time.
Oh.
It was at precisely that moment that the victim was fleeing for his life that these brothers had the perfect opportunity to shoot the man in the back once he was inside the storeroom, because the door was already open. Come to think of it, do you remember when the prosecutor said at the start of the trial?
Moving on to the findings of Scotland Yard's coroner. His report states the bullet entered the body on a raising diagonal trajectory. It means the victim was likely shot by someone significantly shorter in height than himself.
Poor man. Shot while he was running as fast as he could to safety. Of course. He would have been leaning forward as he was running away. So even if the bullet was fired horizontally, it would still have entered his body at an upward trajectory. So the culprit isn't necessarily someone shorter than Mr. Winterbank.
I'm sure that my learned friend can't have forgotten that the storeroom door was found closed and locked from the inside. You claim the victim was shot as he fled into the room. Do you also claim his corpse was dexterous enough to turn the key in the lock?
But, what if someone else locked the door? Yeah, of course she did. Gina locked it. There was someone else that could have locked the storeroom door.
Is that so? Very well then, counsel. Present your hypothesis to the court. In the scenario you just described, the defense's assertion is that the victim was shot from outside the storeroom. In which case, who shut and locked the storeroom door from the inside?
Gina. Obviously, the person who locked the door is the only other person inside the storeroom at that time. The defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade.
Objection.
That's absurd. You're suggesting that the accused deliberately engineered the sealed room? For what possible reason? Such actions would only serve to tighten the noose around her neck. I am inclined to agree, I must say. Well, counsel.
Ah, yes, that's a tricky one, that, isn't it?
Half-baked notions have no place in my courtroom, counsel. Remember that, please.
But of course Ginny would have locked the door. It almost goes without saying, doesn't it? It does? I like how you can say that it was Susato. Like, that literally doesn't make any sense. They just penalise me for it because they know it's a silly idea. It's like how I can say it's Herlock Sholmes, or I could say it's Van Zykes, or I can say it's me. Who was it? Oh yeah, it was me. I was on the other side of the door at the time, but you know, it's fine. It'd make for some interesting conundrums if they didn't just have generic text and the story actually altered every time you did something wrong. Yeah, that's an idea. That's a pretty that's a pretty intriguing idea, actually. I know I would have locked the door as quickly as I could. I mean, those two burglars had just fired a gun in her direction, hadn't they? Oh yeah, obviously. Saying it was Van Zyke seems possible. Well, yeah, he is kind of just Dracula, isn't he? So, you know, he could have, like, been a bat and, like, gone in there, like, to sleep, I guess, and then morphed when it was daytime. Before the two brothers arrived, Miss Lestrade and Mr. Winterbank were in the storeroom together. Now, I don't know what went on between them at that time, but at some point, Mr. Winterbank must have heard the intruders breaking into his shop and left the storeroom. Intruders, eh? That's us, bruv.
If your theory is correct, that would leave the accused alone in the storeroom.
Yes, it would. Then, probably only moments later, the victim fled back through the storeroom door, hoping to escape danger. Hit in the back by a bullet, Mr. Winterbank fell onto the floor where he was, just inside the storeroom. And what we have to say for ourselves now is, what would the defendant have done in that moment? Ah, I'll see where you're going with this. Outside the storeroom was a terrifying killer who had just murdered Mr. Winterbank. As soon as that thought struck Mr. Strayed, she slammed the door shut and locked it in order to save her own life. But, I mean, we ain't the ones who've done it. We ain't, Gav, we ain't. You gotta believe us. I mean, come on, we'd never shoot no one. You shot Mr. Sholmes. It's blatantly untrue. I know for a fact that you would. Because before my own eyes, you shot Mr. Herlock Sholmes. I love how they grin it off like, oh, you got us. There's only one logical conclusion here. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin, you brothers had every opportunity to have been the true perpetrators of Mr. Winterbank's murder.
My dictionary does not have word for this.
That was amazing, Runo. All the members of the jury seem to be firmly on your side now. I know. First time ever. And probably the last. Well, I think you've done it. Surely they'll have to give you the verdict now.
An admirable effort, my learned friend.
What's this now? He's laughing.
You find the situation amusing, Lord Van Zykes? I myself find the defense's arguments most persuasive. I dare say such chicanery is a bread and butter of the street performers in the provincial Eastern nation. But so blatantly malicious conjuring tricks amount to nothing more than inexcusable pettifoggery here.
What?
The hypothesis you put forward, so obtensely credible, cannot and will not stand. Because you see, it contains a fatal flaw.
Yes, like usual.
Do you mean to tell me that you're unaware of your logic's failings? Ah, Sir Lord Van Zykes. Might I have an idea to explain the bodily conjuring tricks, whatever it is to the troops on the ground? The fatal flaw in my learned friend's argument is really very simple to understand.
Pettifoggery doesn't sound like a real word. It probably isn't, and it's probably just a mistranslation. You know, like, I think 40% of this game. I'm pretty sure half the stuff in this game isn't real words, and it's just put together like, oh yeah, bruv, you know what about that, bruv? It's alright, bruv. Yeah. It's all put in to sound British, and it's like, use pettifoggery to sound like really, really pretentious. Oh, you know, we adore the pettifoggery. It just sounds British. That's the only reason they put it in there.
Assuming you're not too dim-witted to count bullets. By George, count bullets!
Oh dear. He noticed then. Huh? What's everyone talking about?
Council.
Yes? Sir? And people say video games aren't art. All video games are art. We need to find the people who say not and show them this wonderful game. You know, or we could just show them VR chat and show them two people doing some questionable things to each other. You know, either way, really.
Tell the court how many bullets were found at the scene of the crime.
2. 2 bullets.
Correct. The first, that which hit the victim in the back, ending his life. And the second, which struck the detective, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, on his arrival at the scene. Indeed. The defense presented the picture showing the damage caused by the second bullet earlier in the proceedings. The bullet which injured Mr. Sholmes appears to have passed through his body to strike the calendar.
Ooh.
Your lordship's understanding is correct. Furthermore, we know there are 2 firearms involved in the incident. The revolver belonging to the victim, Mr. Winterbank, and the Skulkin Brothers revolver. The evidence shows that a single bullet was fired from each gun. Yes, indeed it does. A bullet fired from each. Now then, my learned friend. You yourself told the court only moments ago that these 2 brothers shot Mr. Herlock Sholmes right before your eyes.
Yes. Yes, I did. Oh my goodness. I think you'll find.
If the single bullet was fired from these brothers' guns at Mr. Sholmes, then it means...
Winterbank, not shot by same gun. Stop. Only 1 bullet. Stop.
Exactly. Yes, this Nipponese street performer presented an intensely credible argument, however. It was never anything more than a diversionary trick with no hope of standing up to the scrutiny.
It's going to be something like they stole Winterbank's gun, shot him, and then it all moves on from there.
Order! 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 Pray forgive the discourtesies of flinging the dregs of this hallowed nectar into the public gallery. Lord Van Zykes. But this court needs to open its eyes. The accused Miss Gina Lestrade is no ordinary little girl. Despite her young years, she can, regrettably, no longer be described as juvenile. No, the person in the dock is far from a law-abiding citizen. She has a past riddled with criminal conduct. The truth is, the accused broke into the pawnbrokery on the night in question with loathsome intent. As we can see beyond doubt in this print which depicts her threatening the victim with the murder weapon. And I have here in my possession one more piece of evidence the prosecution wishes to present.
Van Zykes is kind of rude. No, I just think it's his character. He likes to portray the posh British person that can kind of get his way at all opportunities. It does remind me of a few people, actually.
I'll be taking that, whatever it is. And McGilda's down to the yard. Thank you very much.
No! Don't! Don't give it to him! It's mine! That is mine!
I'm sorry, miss. But anything belonging to McGilda has to be taken in as evidence now.
Yes, that music box disc. McGilda's music box disc.
The very day before the hateful murder of Mr. Winterbank, the accused attempted to make off with this article which clearly doesn't belong to her, and with none of the subtlety of a pickpocket, I might add, but by brute force and brazen impudence. Good gracious! Make no mistake, any sympathy for the accused on account of her years is misguided and dangerous.
He called Ryan Yusuke a street performer. Oh yeah, because he doesn't see him as a real lawyer. You know, even though he's beaten him twice, he doesn't see him as a real lawyer. He's just like, yeah, you're just kind of there, and I can crush you at any moment. My Nipponese friend.
There are no depths to which this girl would not stoop if pushed. No crime she would not commit. The court forgets that fact at its peril. I see. I think it would be prudent to take this music box disc into evidence, counsel, as a grim testament. Lord Van Dyke, sire.
Inspector Gregson? What? I'll be honest, that's not what I expected from him.
Yes, Inspector. We had a meeting yesterday at the yard with the prosecution service, and I think it was agreed that this won't be used as evidence. Oh, I'm sorry, Inspector Gregson, but what can I say? Times change.
What's this all about? Why is the inspector acting strangely? That's the first time he said anything to Van Zykes at all.
I'm unaware of any such meeting. But those were the instructions, right from the top. The government bigwigs were insistent. Inspector, I am the prosecutor, and I alone determine how to present my case. Your warning is noted. Thank you. The prosecution wishes to proceed with submitting this disc as evidence, my lord. Indeed. Bailiff. The music box disc has been entered into the court record. The prosecution has established the accused's motive, opportunity, and baseness of character. Therefore, there is nothing more to add. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I await your informed decisions. And rest my case.
I don't believe it. I had the jury on my side for once, for all of 5 minutes. Oh dear. It wasn't even for 5 minutes, Bruno.
My lord, wonder if I might say something at this point. Proceed, Foreman. Been stumbling around a bit. Have a fog up to now, if truth be told, but all of it a sudden. The answer's bloody obvious to me and my men. There's only one thing for it. Very well. The court will hear from the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, you will present your leanings as to the defendant's culpability.
Guilty.
Guilty.
Oh, here we go again.
Guilty.
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 Guilty. Guilty.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth.
That's my line. I wrote that. For Hurley. How dare I use it against us? Don't worry, Iris. I don't think we're finished yet. There's still more to this case than we realise. There must be. Because there's one thing that I'm absolutely certain of. Gina didn't shoot Mr. Winterbank. That's beyond any doubt.
Very well. We will proceed with the second summation examination of the day. Mr. Foreman, are you and your other jurors ready? Garradeep Squadron is primed and ready for action, sir. Very good. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will each explain on what grounds you have determined the defendant to be guilty.
Judicial findings.
Once a rogue, always a rogue. I say 'em. Different braids to us law-abiding citizens.
As only 2 bullets were found at the scene, I would say the whole case is done and dusted. You don't need a stereoscope to see truth here. Every which way you look at it, it was that pickpocket. Just keep an eye on the time.
I never imagined that simple operation would cause me such grief.
He's still, like, cocked up on his operation. The accused attempted a theft on the previous day. I can see I'm in for a busy day ahead.
I am ballistics expert. I have seen many shootings. There is nothing I do not know about guns. It would seem there are little remaining room for doubt. I have to admit, I was rather bowled over by the argument put forward by the chap in black. But when that fell apart like an house of cards, I saw that I'd be jolly well hoodwinked. Well, no more.
The whole courtroom's turning against me now. It's not fair. Iris? That prosecutor's being mean. Just because Ginny's done something she shouldn't have done in the past. That doesn't make her a murderer.
Allow me to savor this fruity vintage while I savor the spectacle of your fruitless debate on the matter. Here's to the truth coming out. Eventually. That's enough preamble. Counsel, proceed with the summation examination.
Yes, my lord. The first one I want to go to is our Russian friend. He says he's a ballistics expert.
Hold it!
I thought you were just a tourist.
Good day. I am visiting London for sightseeing. I would like to take a bus to Crystal Tower, please.
There's no way he's just a visiting tourist. So, you're a ballistics expert. Who knew?
I have much experience with guns.
Ah,
I have lived through many, how do you say, extreme violent death of, blood of,
extreme violent bloodbaths, perhaps.
those extreme violent bloodbaths. English is really difficult tongue.
Considering the sorts of people you associate with, I'm surprised you still have a tongue.
Anyway, if you have question about bullets and guns, you ask me. There is nothing I do not know, no mystery I cannot solve.
He's very confident in his knowledge of guns, that's for sure.
But if possible, please, only in the Russian language.
He's not very confident of his knowledge in English, though, is he? No. Still, you should bear it in mind. He's our man if there's a mystery about guns or bullets. Van Zyx has managed to convince everyone. When you have eliminated the impossible, he said, but he hasn't. If we're going to fight back, we need more material. And we have to fight back. We have to turn this trial around again.
Hold it!
We'll press the ones that don't look that like they're gonna be anything. Would you please stop muttering about things that have nothing to do with this trial, sir? The defendant's life is on the line here.
Well, thing is, I couldn't really say that it's nothing to do with this trial, to be honest.
Huh?
I mean, there's no question the man was shot, but the bullet had simply vanished from his stomach. It was quite inexplicable, don't you think?
I almost don't want to ask, but this surgery you've been muttering about this whole time, you were operating on Mr. Sherlock Sholmes, of course.
What was the fellow's name now? Herlock, no. Herlock
Sherlock Sholmes, by any chance?
Yes, good lord. It was that Herlock fellow.
You're the surgeon that operated on Mr. Sholmes?
That's right. Using the very latest anesthesia techniques, I might add. It was a fairly major op, I can tell you.
This is crazy.
Let me see, the fellow was brought in not long after midnight, if I remember correctly. They said he'd had been shot by some criminal or other, so I opened him up like a shot. But the funny thing is, I went over his insides with a fine-tooth comb and couldn't find the bullet anywhere. So I'm afraid I had to throw up my hands and just stitch the fellow back up.
I hate to say the obvious, but
Yes,
surely that's because the bullet is still at the scene of the shooting.
the counsel for the defense is correct, as is clearly shown in this photographic print.
The bullet that the Skulkin brothers fired at Mr. Sholmes hit him in the stomach region, then exited his body and lodged into the sharp wall, where the caliber was hanging by the door. I think you'll find that it's really quite simple if you just consider the problem three-dimensionally.
Who do you think I am, son?
Well, juror number 4 is about the best I can do. It's always concerning when a doctor has to assure you that you're using good techniques. Absolutely, state of the art. Absolutely, top-notch techniques we're using here. There's only a 99.9% chance of death.
So your chances look pretty good.
As soon as I saw the wound in the man's stomach, I flipped him over. Like a pancake? Are you saying you checked his back?
Of course I did. And there wasn't a trace of injury. No sign the bullet had left the body at all.
What?
That's the point. The only logical conclusion was that the bullet was still somewhere in the man's innards. Which is exactly why I said about slicing him up. And I'm still none the wiser even now. How many times do I have to say it? Can somebody please explain how it happened? Could somebody please solve the mystery?
It's almost as much of a mystery as to how the jury was put together. That's better than average. That's true. Never trust doctors. Where's an expert when you need one?
Objection.
Those two statements clearly contradict The idea that all I do is pit jurors against each other.
Oh, a ballistics expert. Bidding. Bid.
On the night in question, Mr. Sholmes was shot by one of the skulking brothers. But since there was no sign of an exit wound on his back, we must assume that the bullet did not pass through him. However, no bullet was found lodged in Mr. Sholmes' body either. Furthermore, a bullet was found lodged in the wall of the shop where Mr. Sholmes was shot. Juror number 6.
Hello, my name is Violet. Pleased to meet you.
This apparent contradiction in the facts is so clearly troubling juror number 4. Are you able to explain the mystery?
I have seen a very similar situation in Motherland. It was night. There was blizzard. I was running away along mountain road in freezing cold.
Golly!
The snow was piling high on both sides of road. It was very narrow road and dangerous. My pursuer had hunting rifle, and they were on dog sled.
Mental note. Don't ask too many questions.
I was shot from behind and I fell down in snow. And this situation was very similar to what I hear today from doctor. They could not find bullet in my body. And no sign of, how do you say, exit wound.
Then where did the bullet go?
Bullet never hit me.
Well, if it never hit you, why did you fall down?
Bullet hit frozen wall of ice, really close to my side.
What?
One small piece, really sharp, broke away from lump of ice and pierced my body. It made deep wound, looks just like bullet wound.
Good gracious.
Of course, piece of ice quickly melted inside me. And that is the solution to mystery of disappearing bullet.
But that doesn't answer the question at all. The shooting happened in a pawnbroker's shop. Not some snowy mountain road in another country.
Just an idea, but we might not be looking at exactly the same scenario here. Bruno, where exactly was Hurley shot again? Well, according to the reports, his stomach, sort of around this area, I think. Well, that's precisely where he always wears a little pouch on his belt. A pouch? Actually, I might have noticed something like that. Yes, a pouch. It's where he keeps 3 glass vials of very dangerous chemicals that he uses for his investigations. What, really? Doctor, where is the pouch Mr. Sholmes was wearing?
Well, fellow had nothing on his person when arrived at the hospital, as far as I remember.
If I may.
Lord Van Zykes, you're in contempt of court. You're not supposed to be disrupting, man.
While I realize it is forbidden for the prosecution to interject during a summation examination, I should inform the defense that I have the pouch in question in the antechamber outside the courtroom.
Sorry?
As I understood it, when the police arrived at the scene and found Mr. Sholmes injured, they removed the pouch in order to assess his wound.
Oh, thank goodness.
I thought I was getting forgetful for a moment. Since then, it has been in my safekeeping along with all other evidence relating to the case. I can personally vouch for the fact that it has not been touched since the incident occurred.
Very well. While extremely unconventional during a summation examination, I must demand the prosecution presents the item in question with all speed. Bring forth Mr. Herlock Sholmes' pouch. I see.
Ah, yes, investigation chemicals. Of course. They're just chemicals for investigating, of course. Yes, yes. Nothing inconspicuous at all.
I see. So this pouch was worn by Mr. Sholmes on the night in question, was it?
Look at that. One of the files is broken, and the lever around it is scorched black. It's almost as if the file exploded.
Exploded?
So, that night, the bullet from the Skulking Brothers' gun struck Mr. Sholmes' pouch.
And it was a glass file exploding that caused the fellow's injuries.
This bullet did not penetrate the victim, but was deflected into wall of shop. A delightfully complex aroma.
It would appear one mystery has been solved at least.
Though it has no bearing on the truth of this case. The bungling and burgling brothers shot the detective, and the accused shot the pawnbroker. The pertinent facts of the case remain unaltered.
But at least the mystery is solved. I can sleep easy tonight. Thank you, young man.
Thank you very much.
Glad I could help.
Due to its bearings on the conundrum to solve, the court will sequester this scruffy pouch as evidence.
Hurley's pouch isn't scruffy.
Now, the summation examination. It would appear the defense is somewhat struggling to alter opinion.
Please, my lord. A little more time. After all, that's a new piece of evidence. It could be a valuable clue, and you can't afford to overlook anything here, right, Inosuke? There's still a way to turn this around. Somehow. I'm sure of it.
Hold it!
Let's have a look at this. What do you mean you're in for a busy day? For God's sake, stop. Do excuse me. Stop. I'm a communications officer. Stop. A communications officer? Does that have something to do with sending telegrams? Everything is from personal messages written by members of the public to the latest news in the capital. I convert all the messages into Morse code and tap them out on the entire world to the entire world electronically. To the entire world. Thousands of miles of cable under the sea. Stop. Worldwide communication network. Stop. Information transmitted to and from all corners of the globe. Stop. Ah, yes. She was getting equally worked up about radio waves. Or the like before, wasn't she? I specialize in communicating information from government departments and newspaper offices. I see. I'm sure I shall have to wire the newspaper reports of today's guilty verdict. Oh, I'm getting tired. So no sleep for me tonight, I imagine. Let's just finish the trial first, shall we? What I do want to investigate is this one. It's the number of bullets that has you convinced. Only 2 bullets were fired, and 2 guns that fired them have been examined by the police. When the parlour maid asks me how many are invited for dinner, I always tell her to count the table settings. Well, that's logical, I suppose. Although, yes, sometimes after dining, crockery does go missing. 1 or 2 guests rather like their fine china. Does your employer dine with thieves? So I suppose. If there was another bullet somewhere, of which we were unaware, I'd have to reconsider my position. A 3rd bullet somewhere on the scene. Could that be possible? Allow me to show you then. The 3rd bullet. This ammunition still loaded into the 5. Oh, I think I've made a mistake. Which tells us that only a single shot has been fired from it. Exactly. It happened almost as soon as we walked through Windbank's door. I'll make those brothers pay. This is Mr. Winterbank's gun. The cylinder is completely empty. He always used to keep this gun on hand at the shop counter. Only ever with a single bullet loaded, I understand. That's right, to keep all the pawned articles that were in his care safe. But his 1 bullet was fired, and the poor man lost his life. Was he protecting his shop, I wonder? Well, that was a bust. It totally changed shape, just from 1 little button. Well, that is what the button's for, Reno. But just like Hurley, you boys love pressing buttons, don't you? Especially if you don't know what they do. Us boys? Says the 10-year-old girl. Anyway, now you can see that it really is a stereoscope, can't you? I'm just wondering if there's anything else we've picked up that might have a bullet. Hmm. The file's been completely smashed into pieces. Presumably, this is where the bullet struck. As soon as that bullet hit the chemical in the file, there would have been a really big explosion. Big explosion? Well, Hurley's potions and chemicals are amazingly useful for the investigation work he does. But they're also quite tricky to handle. Safely, at least. They're very dangerous. Oh, I'm sure that when this file broke, the chemical inside would have ignited. Note to self. Always walk on right-hand side of Mr. Sholmes in future. Left is danger zone. Oh look, there's a hole here in the back. Doesn't look like much of a bullet hole, but clearly something ripped through the leather with great force. Something must have pierced it, somehow to have left this hole behind. It looks that way. Mr. Sholmes and his pouch both took a beating, didn't they? It was more of the giant... Am I or am I not hitting the bullet? There is a bullet in there. It passes for a bullet as much as you pass for a lawyer, my learned friend.
In no way does it resemble a bullet. If that helps your understanding of my last remark.
Counsel, at the very least, I would expect the evidence you present to be of the correct form.
It's been a long day. I know where the third bullet is. It's right there in the thing. It's really scratched badly here. Oh, the strap's broken. Look. This must have been where the bullet hit then. Let me see. What the? Iris, look. Behind where the broken file was. What do you see? That's the Skulking Brothers bullet. What a stroke of luck that it hit his pouch. This is an amazing discovery. What this means is there were 3 bullets fired at Winterbanks that night. We found exactly what the juror was talking about. At the 3rd bullet. It's time to press that juror again, I think. Surely that should have been acceptable.
Take that!
Here it is. We discovered it just now. On the night in question in Winterbank's pawnbrokery, another bullet was fired.
Hold it!
What is this new trickery, you Nipponese conjurer? Where did you find that bullet?
It was lodged inside Mr. Sholmes' pouch.
What?
This pouch was removed from around Mr. Sholmes' waist before he was taken to hospital. and since then it's been touched by no one.
Do you mean to say the shot fired by the Skulking brothers that night?
Yes, as your lordship has summarised, it is his pouch. But
That makes no sense whatsoever. We already know the whereabouts of the bullet fired at Mr. Jones. It's clearly visible at this photographic print.
two guns from the scene have already been submitted into the court record as evidence.
Yes. That of Mr. Winterbank and the belonging to the Skulking brothers.
And examination of both guns revealed that only a single bullet has been fired from each. So there was a third gun. Street performer and conjurer. He's really well-rounded. Hey look, you've got to be a jack of all trades in this business. Oh. But that must mean... That's right. We now know that on the night in question, 3 bullets were fired. However, only 2 bullets fired from the guns recovered from the crime scene. And until that incontrovertible inconsistency is somehow explained, we cannot and must not pass judgment. Feels good, man.
Order! 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 While this summation examination remains incomplete, the court has been presented with new facts. Facts that would appear to shake the very foundations upon which the case against the defendant has already been built. As is my prerogative in this situation, I hereby temporarily suspend the summation examination.
By Jupiter!
What? Bailiff, bring the witness back to the stand at once. Witnesses,
Governor?
were you listening to the proceedings while the defense carried out the summation examination?
We was, Governor, we was.
Perhaps we can dispense with the tedious preamble, simply answer this one question. Third bullet has been identified at the scene of the crime. What do you make of that?
Make of it, Gov? I don't make nothing.
Is it one of yours?
Good blimey, Gov, good blimey, not a chance.
In that case, do you have an accomplice?
What? Never. The Skulking brothers were alone. It's just the 2 of us. Not our trademark. How soon we forget poor Sulky?
Only 2 of the bullets from the crime scene originated from the firearms we have in evidence. A third bullet was fired from another gun. Where is it?
Mummy, that's an head scratcher.
Counsel for the defense,
Yes?
I should like to hear your thoughts regarding these new developments. A third bullet and a mysterious missing firearm, from whence it came.
Thinking back over all the testimony we've heard and all the evidence we've seen, I think I'm starting to form a picture of what really happened that night. My lord, I think it's clear that this third bullet tells us one thing about the Skulking brothers. They've got to have an accomplice. On that night at Winterbank's pawnbrokery, these brothers must have been working with a third man. The witnesses are clearly doing their best to cover up for the existence of this accomplice, but the evidence all points to the fact that there is someone else present. someone carrying a gun.
Objection!
An accomplice, you say? Pig swill. These protracted proceedings have already forced us to endure 2 summation examinations. Yet, in all that time, there has not been a murmur of a third man. If this apparently wraith-like being exists, the court must be shown hard evidence. Without it, this fantasy will be crushed. The prosecution demands answers on 2 counts. Firstly, proof. Evidence that this accomplice was ever at the scene of the crime. And secondly, the identity of this spurious character.
The Skullkins are lying. I know that. But how can I ascertain the identity of a person they're hiding?
Well, counsel,
I'm supposed to prove the existence of this accomplice and reveal the person's identity even. In response to the prosecution demand, my lord, the defense... The defense is ready. I have an idea. I believe I can provide the answers the prosecution demands. Hey, Tiff. I heard about the Activision thing. It's Xbox. They won't make Spyro and Crash an exclusive.
So, my Nipponese friend, despite the swimming eyes, you seem to think you have something to say. The promise. This promises to be interesting.
I have to push forward now. There's no other option. I need to use every single piece of evidence available to me if it will make a difference.
in that case, counsel, I will ask you to present the evidence without delay. On that night in question, in what moments leading up to the death of the victim, what proof do you have that there was a third intruder present at the scene?
Oh yeah, Activision Blizzard's been bought out, if you didn't know. Now owned by lovely Microsoft. It's only because their in-house games suck. That's questionable. I don't think they're going to gain much from having Blizzard on their side. Because it's still the same underlying problem with Blizzard games. And Activision games. It's mainly the Activision games, actually, but... The evidence is right here, in this portfolio.
By Jove! That portfolio again, is it?
Do you expect the court to rifle through your papers itself? Be more specific.
The things they could buy out. A bunch of game studios. Yeah, and they decide with Activision. It's questionable. It's like, depends how much influence they now get, and if it's still Bobby, whatever his name, Bruisemowitz, who's at the top. Because if it's still him, they're just going to keep having the same issue. I don't think Blizzard knows how to maintain old IPs. Well, yeah, they're all dying pretty much. I remember reading that a lot of the studios that Blizzard owned were pretty much just working on Call of Duty straight off. They were basically knowing, like, yeah, Call of Duty is the cash cow, so everyone will buy it. Yada yada yada. Dug way too much into Activision Blizzard's history. I don't want to know anymore.
You claim one of these blood samples proves the presence of this third intruder. Well, which one is it?
Take that!
What am I looking at here? There appears to be some green paint or such like around a bullet hole in the middle of the calendar.
That's a bloodstain, my lord.
A bloodstain.
Green blood? Curious even for you. Is the court to understand this intruder was some sort of unhuman creature?
It's something developed by Mr. Herlock Sholmes. By the great detective? New invention. Stop. Not yet appeared in stories. Stop. It's this, you see. It doesn't have a name yet, though. This fogger sprays a chemical that reacts with the different elements in people's blood to change the colour. Everything's good. As you can tell, I don't have the regular symptoms, which is nice because I can do voices even though I am out of drink. So you know, I'm hoping there's an intermission because I'm planning to stop anytime soon. How are you doing, Tiff?
Different elements of people's blood.
Yes, everyone's blood is slightly different, you see, because it's made up of different elements. So by seeing what colour it changes, you can tell in a flash whose blood it is. Oh, that brings all extra dimension to what you're looking at when you're looking at blood. Took a bloody courtroom. Stop. Very exciting. Stop. I'm good. Got my booster today, so my arm's going to kill. I need to get mine as soon as I'm COVID free. As an example, this one shows the blood of the victim at Miss Windbank.
Ah, striking blue.
Yes, so you see, the green colour of this bloodstain on the calendar shows that someone else was shot in the main part of the shop.
Now hold that there, young man. Could it be some unrelated incident, couldn't it?
No, it's not unrelated. Date shown on the calendar is the date at which Mr. Winterbank was killed.
By golly.
Therefore, we can assume that whoever was shot on the same day.
Then whose blood is it?
Then need to get another booster and then hopefully no more till next year. If you've had COVID, do you still need boosters? Yeah, you pretty much need to get the 2 main shots and then you need the boosters. I think they said you're going to need to get them like every 6 months or something. At least that's what's going around here. Which means it must be the blood of somebody else. A third intruder, in fact.
Objection!
They're going to start charging people money if they don't get vaccinated, I think. And they do very much rightly so.
whose identity the court we are still waiting to hear. You can't delay this any longer, my learned friend. Who is this alleged third intruder?
Mr. Eggert Benedict.
Take that!
The man's name is Eggert Benedict.
Eggert Benedict? Who on earth are you talking about, Counsel?
He paid a visit to Winterbank's pawnbrokery on the afternoon before the incident took place.
When the accused attempted to deceive the pawnbroker into releasing this article into her possession.
Like, I think they're planning on taxing people that are unvaccinated or something, not too sure. Well, yeah, you've got to pretty much scare people into doing stuff now. I know it's dystopian, but at the end of the day, you got to do what's right for the most people. And at the minute, if you're not getting the vaccine, you're kind of not in the right group of people anyway. You know, unless it's for like some form of like religious reason, maybe. Or maybe you've not. Maybe you're allergic to the vaccine or something. There's always reasons you can't have it. The man identified by the defense, Mr. Enoch Benedict, then attempted to take the article from the defendant by force.
Broker! Yes, sir. I believe this filthy pocket thief has just redeemed an article from you. No?
Yes.
The article in question belongs to me. I demand for it to be returned at once.
Now that's a lie. What are you trying to pull?
Give me back my overcoat, you rascal. No need to say. Jaw.
Any music box discs too? Demutate the virus and mutate the virus equals more shots. I don't want to get any more shots. Or they at least make it more possible to mutate the virus. Of course they do. Have you ever played Plaguing? Inspector Gregson, was there a time? Inspector Gregson was there at the time and can attest to what happened. In the end, it was the inspector himself who took the disc.
Can you corroborate this account, Inspector?
Yes, my lord. That's more or less what happened. And in the interest of being fair, I asked Winterbank for a print showing the fella. Taken from one of his red-handed recorded cabinets.
Yes! That's him talking to Mr. Winterbank that morning.
And you claim this man is the brother's accomplice?
Well, Mr. and Mr. Skulkin. It's a good game. I never won. There were a couple of tricks you had to do. I could always at least do level 1. After that, you start getting into things where the thing mutates itself and you're like, what? I think the necrosis one was probably the funniest. I don't think I've won that to date yet. Even on the easiest difficulty. Never seen that geezer before in my life. For me life, girl, for me life. Never seen him.
Well, somewhat unsurprisingly, it appears our witnesses disagree with the assertion.
I'm sure your lordship recalls my learned Nipponese friend's actual assertion. which was that he could prove the identity of the alleged accomplice?
Yes, I can. Then show us the evidence. I agree. We must see proof that the clean-cut gentleman in the photograph is a filthy criminal you say he is. This is the last piece of evidence. I've had a feeling that something's been missing in this trial from the very start, but now I'm going to drag it kicking and screaming into the courtroom.
Are you ready to present your answers to the court then, counsel?
Yes, my lord. The defense will present the evidence now.
Proof that the man in the photographic print was in fact the person struck by the third bullet.
I have to give you props for reading out loud for like 2 hours, 20 minutes. Reading out loud is a lot more harder than just talking. And you're doing the voices too. You better have lozenges at the ready. I'm going to bed after this, so, you know, my frog gets to rest. And I'm starting to feel woozy. I was kind of hoping that, you know, I was finished half an hour ago. At a save point, but we've got to be at some point now. Gina couldn't have been wearing leather gloves that night, could she? Gina never wear gloves. She's a pickpocket. She relies on being able to feel with her fingertips. I could be wrong, but I think I'm being told off. I kind of wanted to examine it, like, but... Oh, the blood's been identified as Mr. Mason. It's a very lengthy game. Yeah, I know. This is the bullet that was fired from the Skulking's brother's gun on the night of the incident. Yes, so it turns out that it never actually entered Hurley's body at all. Thanks to the thick leather of that pouch he was wearing, it saved him. Hurley's always been like that. Well, considering what he has to go through in the hospital, I wonder how lucky he really was. Poor Hurley. Oh yeah, because he's still got a scalpel in his, like, abdomen. I'll be honest, I really don't know. Proof that the man in this picture was in fact the person struck. pawnbroker perishes in pickpocket plunder. How awful. But tomorrow's headline will be discharged driver is dauntless do-gooder, right? Yeah, something like that, if possible. I'd like to go even bigger. Bigger? How? Proud pickpocket protects planet post-trial. Perhaps. Protects planet? Ooh, I can't wait for tomorrow now. It's gonna be so great. That's not what I wanted. I wanted this. Oh, it's the same thing. There's a sensational story about lower down the front page. Ministry mole. Classified secrets may have just been leaked overseas from the Ministry of Justice. For a 10-year-old, Iris certainly has her finger on the pulse of world news. It's a secret communications between Great Britain and its allies. Apparently they've been intercepted by hostile nations. Communications are being intercepted, but how would someone be doing that? That's the question, isn't it? I've come up with 3 different possible methods so far. Are you looking for a new career, Uno? No. Of course not. I wonder. Perhaps is this what Lord Strongheart was talking about yesterday? Yes, it could be. And it could explain why he has Grixie running from pillar to post at the moment. Okay, that's a bit of information, but not really that useful. This is blood. You're right. It's just a small smear, but definitely blood. Actually, I feel as though I've noticed it before. It's my time to shine again. I thought I'd be waiting forever. Hold still with that disc, will you, Rena? Can we get this done quickly, Iris? In a flash. That's what I wanted to see. Oh, a lovely bright shade again. Wait, that colour. It's just that green, isn't it? Not the first time we've seen that colour. I will just save, just in case.
Take that!
The proof is right here, in this portfolio.
Good gracious, Council. Does that portfolio contain the answers to every question posed?
I see you share my interest in claret-coloured liquids, my Nipponese friend. But enough. The court demands to see further evidence. Which blood sample proves the man you identified was the one shot by the 3rd bullet at the scene of the crime?
Take that!
As I mentioned before, on the afternoon of the day in question, the defendant attempted, deceitfully, admittedly, to reclaim this disc from Winterbanks.
which was then the aforementioned Eggert Benedict, appeared on the scene, I believe. This man then attempted to purloin the article from the defendant's possession, no?
That's correct, my lord. I myself was present at the time. It was following this that a minor incident occurred.
But of course, sir, here's the disc for you. Very well. Then I shall bid you farewell. Say goodbye to style.
Wait a minute. That disc is mine.
What do you think you're doing, you little tramp? You've drawn blood, you filthy animal.
Being a music box disc, it has countless small but sharp metal protrusions all over it. These protrusions caused Mr. Benedict's finger to bleed, and the resulting smear and blood is still visible on the disc now.
Goodness, a bloodstain, is it?
My assistant and I have analysed this bloodstain here in this very courtroom, using my trusty fogger gun. Yes, and we've added the results to this portfolio.
I say.
It's green. Exactly the same colour as the blood around the calendar. The evidence is conclusive. The man calling himself Mr. Eggert Benedict, who was in Winterbanks earlier that day, is the accomplice who was present at the scene of the crime that same night. Hey, we've still got it. My lord, it is the opinion of the defence that Mr. Eggert Benedict should be summoned to the courtroom to testify.
It would certainly seem that we can ill afford to ignore this gentleman's apparent presence.
Objection!
This has gone on long enough. This flagrant ignorance of the mechanisms of law. Herlock Sholmes, you say? Yes, I've heard the name. The protagonist in a series of short stories for the vulgar class. A god of detection or some such. And now you employ chemical substances devised by this fantastical persona in the highest court in the land? Do you expect us to take you seriously? The samples made by this plaything are not fit to be called evidence. So this bloodstain turned a shade of green. What of it? Here's to you successfully proving that no other blood in the world would turn the same colour.
Well...
And pray, do not even think of suggesting that we should take Mr. Sholmes' word for it.
Oh, we're getting there. Slowly but surely. I knew it would come to this. Of course, Mr. Sholmes' invention is going to be recognised by the official body. But what other choice did I have? I'm just remembering what Father Christmas over there said before. About how he was temporarily suspending the summation examination. In other words, the examination isn't over yet, is it?
Good grief, what did you just say, young girl?
And in a summation examination, the decision as to whether or not the trial continues is in the hands of the 6 jurors, isn't it? So the way I see it, it doesn't matter what certain other people think of Hurley's invention. At least, not for now. She's right.
Young lady, you have quite the devious mind.
It really just comes down to one thing. Whether these ladies are gentlemen of the jury are convinced by what you say, Runa. Is that about right, would you say? Or did I misunderstand something? Unbelievable. Mr. Sholmes' partner is a force to be reckoned with. Iris Wilson, sharpshooter. Alright, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to stop. But we'll save it here. Because now we have evidence. And it's a nice cliffhanger for next time. So I hope you enjoyed yourself. As much as my throat is killing now, worth it. So I hope you take care of yourself. I hope you always push forward for a better tomorrow, a better future. And most of all, I hope you have a wonderful evening, a wonderful morning, wonderful afternoon. And even if you only get 20 minutes to sit down for yourself, those are your 20 minutes. And you deserve them. Take good care of yourselves, everybody. Ooh, the chat doesn't work. It was fun. Try to get better. I will get better. I hope you get better too. There we go. Went for on that one. Ciao, amigos.